This is the Energy Makers Show, featuring the innovators, financiers, and policymakers focused on the global energy demand. Brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And here's your host, Paul Dickerson.
Hi, I'm Paul Dickerson, and welcome to another episode of the Energy Makers Show. Today we hear about natural gas, shale, and even about renewables and what some consider a surprisingly good year they had. First up, Ron Bolen, Managing Director of da3co, an investment bank, a merchant bank. Next up, we hear from Larry Atherton, CEO of APS Solar, a startup that's been experiencing some pretty amazing growth. All that right after this.
Where will the energy come from to move us forward? From natural sources in abundant supply, or perhaps a man-made source? At NRG, we believe innovation will solve our energy needs. That's why NRG is moving away from fossil fuels towards wind, solar, and other sustainable technologies to power the smart grid, the electric car, and our clean energy future. We're using all of our energy to develop more of it.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now, back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Paul Dickerson.
Welcome to the Energy Makers Show. We have with us today Ron Bolen, Managing Director of da3co. Ron, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Paul.
So what can you tell us about da3co?
Well, da3co is a small merchant banking operation we've launched as of September of last year. We focus solely on the energy space. We focus both domestic and global issues, and we deal primarily with traditional, but we are working into the clean tech sector as well.
Well, what is the state of clean tech in your mind?
You know, it's fascinating. I was just recently in a conference, and there was a presentation by Bloomberg New Energy Finance, and certainly to my surprise, the numbers are coming out that in 2011, there was a 5% increase in clean tech investing. If you had asked me before the conference, I would have told you there was at least a 15% decline in investment, which is a way to say that while mathematically the numbers are coming in, I don't know anyone that's actually feeling that. My suspicion is that the majority of those dollars went on to follow-on investments or rearranging existing portfolios, but very few of those dollars made it into new ventures.
Well, which of the technologies are you watching?
We watch in alternatives two primary spaces, both power and fuels. On the power side, we see a very growing trend on a simple explanation, which is base load is king. So we've seen a resurgence in geothermal. We've seen a resurgence in some of pelletizing or fibrous material biomasses. That's not to say that solar and wind won't always be there and they won't be part of the portfolio mix, but at this particular time, there seems to be an increased interest in the base load capacities. On fuels, we've seen sort of a couple of trends, both domestic and globally. Domestically, we are seeing still a tremendous push towards municipal solid waste to fuels. We've also seen internationally an interest in castor bean oil, some of the more, if you will, exotics like jojoba, et cetera. We've seen, particularly in Asia, a real move towards biofuels.
Now, as you're looking to provide the services either on the investment banking, the fundraising side, or the merchant banking side, for the merchant bank where you're providing some of your own consulting and services, where are the technologies that you've been adding the most value?
You know, we've seen two primary moves, at least for our operation. There are a number of global companies, foreign, looking to establish presence not just in the United States, but particularly in the Gulf states, whether they be from Norway, where we're working right now, all the way to China. There are energy companies that are wanting to establish a presence here. They understand the importance of Houston and the Gulf states to the energy makeup, not just of the United States, but access to the GOM. It puts you also into Brazil. And those companies are coming to make their presence known. Those technologies that we have seen have spread the gamut from deep water rig manufacturing all the way to, sort of as I mentioned previously, castor oil, who, you know, has sort of made a resurgence, if you will, since the old castor oil you used to put in your car when you were in high school.
Sure. Now, when you're looking globally, I know natural gas has played a big role, certainly on the power side of things. What's your view domestically here in America, and then around the world when it comes to natural gas?
I'm assuming that you're referring to fracking.
Sure.
Fracking is probably going to be one of the most dynamic changes to the marketplace that you and I will experience in the nat gas world during our lifetime. We've seen two different ways to approach that. From the technology side, there have been tremendous advances there happening every day as the drillers become more comfortable with the technologies, the way they understand the behavior of the disruptions that they're causing. They're getting very, very laser-like in their ability to use the fracking technology. We've seen even the domestic U.S. up in the Marcellus and even in some of the other sort of Western shales, a bit of market disruption with regard to what I'll call the court of public opinion.
Right.
There's a lot of disinformation out regarding sort of the impact of fracking. I think it'll take us as a marketplace a little bit of time to understand that in a bit more truthful manner. I think we'll get there. Globally, and I'm thinking primarily Europe at this moment, we've seen a completely different approach. The Paris Basin, which by all research seemed to have been a prolific play, has essentially been stymied, both for European companies as well as U.S. companies that went to the Paris Basin to try to drill with the moratorium on fracking. I believe, if I'm not mistaken here, that the French government made the use of diesel as a fracking liquid a criminal offense. So even being held captive, if you will, to sort of the Russian pipelines that move nat gas into the Western European markets, I think the EU, primarily driven by regulations out of Brussels, are still struggling with how to find that balance between supply demand in the marketplace while trying to hold on to environmental stewardship.
Well, Ron, it's always a pleasure. I hope you'll come back.
Anytime. Thank you very much.
And that concludes our discussion with Ron Bolen. We'll be back with more right after this.
The future is here.
You can't see it. It's electric.
At NRG, we're providing clean energy and now charging stations to make the electric car a reality. Kinda makes you want a boogie woogie, doesn't it? NRG, moving clean energy forward.
It's electric.
This is the Energy Makers Show, brought to you by NRG, moving clean energy forward. And now back to the Energy Makers Show with your host, Paul Dickerson.
Welcome back to the Energy Makers Show. We have with us now Larry Atherton, CEO of APS Solar. Larry, great to have you on the program.
Paul, thank you for having me.
So tell us about APS Solar.
Well, APS Solar, we've been around for about 4.5 years. We're headquartered here in Houston, Texas. We're primarily a distributed generation company with a focus on solar right now.
And despite the bad economy, I understand it's been a pretty good 4 years.
We've been growing at about 400% a year, and we're excited about that. There's a lot of movement in the green industry right now, and as a result, we've been able to benefit from that, and more people want to take advantage of being green and offsetting a lot of their power consumption with solar.
All right, so who are some of these customers, and why you?
We have NAPCEP certified engineers. We provide a turnkey approach to our customers. We're considered an EPC solar firm. We do all of the engineering in-house. We procure all of the product, and we employ all of our own installation teams. We have a full fleet of trucks, and we travel all over the state of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and some in Oklahoma. Most of our customers right now are residential customers that are interested in going green and want to offset some of their consumption with solar. We have a pretty large footprint into the government sector. We have some contracts with the Navy and the Army and in different parts of Texas, and we have a large part of our business is commercial, and it's growing. Currently, we're installing the largest solar system in Houston for Southeast Freight Lines down by the Hobby Airport Business Park that's being developed.
Now, when you look at the gas prices, right, we've seen, gas is at a historic low. How's that affecting the solar market? How do you continue to position the company to remain competitive?
There's some financial products out there that allow us to be competitive with natural gas prices, and obviously there's a large amount of natural gas that's going to be around for a long time, and it's cheap right now. And I think as consumption in that takes place and reserves are used up over time, the price will continue to rise. Although it is cleaner fuel, it's still not the cleanest fuel.
Right.
Solar provides, 100% renewable energy. There's some financial products out there, and primarily one out there is NRG has a leasing company based out of Houston, NRG SunCap Financial, and they offer a solar leasing product, which is about 45% for a prepaid lease up front through their subsidiaries, Reliant Energy and Green Mountain Energy.
So, and that's for residential?
For residential, yes. And what that does is it gets your cost per kilowatt hour closer to what we call grid parity, which is equivalent to what you're paying to an electric company now, but you basically would lock in your cost per kilowatt hour through a solar system for the next 20 to 30 years.
Larry, for your residential customers, who are they?
Wow, that's really changed over the last couple of years. In the past, a typical residential customer for us would be somebody that has the discretionary income to afford a solar system on their house. And at that time, with the pricing, it was probably a $50,000 to $70,000 system. What we're seeing now with the decreasing in the pricing and several models that we have developed for builders in town, they're offering homes with solar already installed on them, and or the price has come down to where we're seeing more and more people that really want to offset some of their consumption and go green.
Well, and of course, with the presidential election coming on, we hear all about job creation. How are you viewing job creation as it relates to the solar industry and maybe even for your own company?
Well, that's funny because that's one of the biggest obstacles we have right now is finding a qualified workforce. There's some training facilities around that help equip us with people that understand solar and how to install it, but we're hiring faster than they can turn those people out. This year, we will probably add another 40 or 50 positions. In the last 2.5 years, we've probably added about 50 positions. We're projecting by the end of this year to have over 100 employees. We'll have a full operation going in Louisiana, and currently we're expanding up into Mississippi right now.
Incredible. A very successful startup. Larry, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
Well, and that wraps this episode of the Energy Makers Show, heard on the radio nationwide and seen right here at TheEnergyMakers.com. I'm Paul Dickerson, and we'll see you next week.